What's up, my beautiful people? Welcome to r/AskReddit, where today, tenants facing eviction try to prove their case using photos of units they've never even lived in. If you're like me and tired of all the negativity out there, then come on in for your daily dose of Reddit Hope and Happy. Alright, so the AskReddit question was, legal professionals of Reddit, what's the funniest way you've ever seen a lawyer or defendant blow a court case? Got a twofer. Murder trial and the defendant is facing life. The first day of the trial, the defense attorney is 45 minutes late to court. This isn't his first issue, and the judge tells him that if he isn't on time the rest of the trial, he'll hold the attorney in contempt of court. Second day of the trial, the attorney shows up 30 minutes late. The judge is ticked. He tells the defendant that his attorney is not representing him effectively and that if he was a public defender, he would remove him from the case and order a new attorney assigned. But since he is a private attorney retained by the defendant, he can't do that. However, if the defendant wants to fire him and either get a public defender or hire a new lawyer, the judge will allow him to do so and to continue the case, over the objection of the state. Defendant says, "Nah, I'm good," and proceeds to get convicted and sentenced to life. As a bonus, since the judge spelled out to him all the ways his attorney was being ineffective and he stuck with him anyway, he won't be able to argue ineffective assistance of counsel on appeal because in order to do that, you have to show you didn't know about the issues when you went forward with that attorney. Moral of the story, if the judge tells you that your attorney sucks and offers you a new one, get a new freaking attorney. Man, can you imagine being that attorney? To know that you did so poorly that you can't even be found guilty of ineffective assistance of counsel because the judge spelled out everything that you were doing wrong to the defendant. Oh my gosh. Not a lawyer, but my ex-wife is a great example of mercilessly destroying her own case in a half-cocked attempt to somehow damage me. We had been divorced for a while and shared custody at this point. She was having marital problems and hit her husband while the child was at home. She proceeded to be arrested and I drove across the state in the middle of the night to get my child as she was being incarcerated. When she gets out, I offer an agreement that is basically I have full custody, she gets every other weekend, and no child support paid. She of course refuses, saying it was all a misunderstanding. I file for ex parte and am awarded temporary full custody. For the first hearing, I ask for both of us to be drug tested as I had social media of hers showing drug use while our child was there. Her lawyer promptly says, "No need, she'll fail for marijuana and ecstasy." Okay. They file for an ad litem in the case, again with the belief that here is a better, more stable household, and all of this is just a misunderstanding. My first meeting with the ad litem, I come with a binder full of texts, phone records, arrest reports, etc. This turned out to be incredibly important because apparently the ex-wife made up elaborate stories about me and how she quit teaching to pursue other passions. The real reason she quit is because she was caught drinking and buying drugs off her high school students. Yeah. The first thing the ad litem told me, and presumably her, was not to lie to her. Fess up to your wrongdoings and she'll understand. Lie and she's going to look into everything you've said and done and believe you are hiding something. At the end of my ad litem meeting, I had counted over 20 lies she had been told, all of which were demonstrably false based on the documents I provided. The case drug on. Her lawyer filed every motion under the sun, really grasping at straws. Finally comes time for the home visit. Mine goes exactly as expected. The day hers was taking place, I got 2 phone calls at the same time. The ad litem and the ex-wife. Apparently, the ex-wife and her husband had made threats to the ad litem so much so that she felt she needed to show up with police for the home visit. At the home visit, when she confronted my ex-wife about the litany of lies, the husband got mad and tried to physically remove the ad litem, with police presence standing right there. The next hearing was a motion for dismissal from her. Her lawyer shows up ready to argue the case has no merit. Little does he know everything that went down at the home visit. My ex-wife had lied to him and told him everything went great. I have never seen a lawyer that ticked off and embarrassed after he found out what actually happened. All this time, she had 4-hour supervised visitations at my house with my mother supervising. Ex-wife chose this one for some reason. For literally every visitation, she showed up, played with our son for a half hour, and then proceeded to nap for the remaining 3.5 hours. My mother, of course, got this all on video and photos, which were promptly provided to the court. And the case drug on for longer. At this point, the ex-wife was desperate and was frequently texting and calling me trying to get the original agreement I had offered. Nope. Finally, our last hearing comes around. We either make a deal or it goes to trial. The ad litem had prepared her report, which I knew was devastating to my ex-wife's case, so I was pretty indifferent on going to trial. We gave her an astoundingly bad offer that her lawyer suggested she take because a trial is going to go way worse. Her husband once again becomes aggressive and tried to fire her lawyer. At that point, you can tell the poor lawyer was done. 9 months of being lied to by your client and going into hearings only to get blindsided by some other stupid crap your client failed to mention. By some miracle, he got her to sign the agreement. She gets my child 2 nights a month. He has to wear a GPS tracker at all times and have a phone able to call me at all times while he is with her. It's specifically written that if she messes up again, she relinquishes her rights and goes to supervised custody only, at her expense. She pays me child support despite my making 4 times her salary, and a litany of defined things that she is and is not allowed to do. My son is doing great now, and the nearly 1-year legal battle was beyond worth it. Unfortunately, his mother turned right back to her idiotic stunts not 3 weeks after the agreement. She frequently threatens me that she's going to appeal the ruling. Of course, it was an agreement and not a ruling, so go ahead. And is several $1,000s behind on child support. She is constantly skirting the ruling. Not enough I can go back to court, but enough that she is obviously disobeying the agreement. All I can do for now is document everything, record all calls, and verify everything. Everyone in court told me I'd be back eventually dealing with her, and I have no doubt I will. TLDR, don't lie. Don't lie to the magistrate or the ad litem, and for crying out loud, don't lie to your own lawyer. Oh, and don't physically threaten an officer of the court. Bad move. Wow. Frick, OP, you've got like the patience of a saint to put up with that. My goodness. Talk about a nightmare of an ex-wife. Holy crap. But still, I mean, I guess in a case like that where they're just so blatantly just crazy, it's got to be pretty easy to build a case against them. So in kind of a way, you probably lucked out a bit in how easy it was to build a case against her. Glad to hear that your son is doing well, though. Obligatory, not a lawyer. I was evicting a tenant for non-payment of rent for 5 months. Tenant contested and tried to claim habitability issues due to mold. I had been in the unit with the plumber because the pilot light on the water heater kept mysteriously going out, so I knew there was no mold. Tenant was turning off the pilot to claim no hot water. In court, the tenant produced photos and a lease agreement as evidence. I also had move-in photos and a lease agreement. Her nonprofit lawyer presented mold photos. Problem was that photos showing a mold-infested unit had carpets. My unit had LVT flooring throughout. So mold defense was off the table as her photos were of some random place. Her lawyer had never been in the home to verify legitimacy of mold or the photos. On to the rent owed. Tenant actually, and this is in the court transcript somewhere in Santa Clara County, produced a lease saying her rent for a 3-bedroom house in Silicon Valley was $19.50 per month, and told the judge we had erroneously been charging her $1,950 for 2.5 years. She also testified she'd been overpaying the $19.50 by accident until 5 months ago when she stopped paying rent due to the non-existent mold and would like to be refunded her overpayment immediately. I know our rents are astronomical, don't shoot the messenger, I don't own the property. Her lawyer had not reviewed the lease she sent to him before presenting, and we had the original with signatures to invalidate her ludicrous claim. This is nothing against her overworked lawyer. There is a need for these non-profit offices to protect tenants from legitimate slumlords, but I think his caseload was a bit much at the time and he had not reviewed anything prior to presenting. So the tenant received a stern lecture about lying under oath. We won. The The sheriff helped restore possessions a few weeks later, but the turnover cost the owner $12,000 due to tenant damages, and that doesn't include the lost rent. The lawyer wouldn't have been able to keep the tenant in the home long term, but could have tried to prevent her from presenting false evidence and asked for a 30-day extension, which is almost always granted. Okay, so on this one, first off, this is an absurd case. I mean, just unbelievable. You cannot reproduce a lease like that and not expect the defense to have their own copy. Secondly, the place I live, I actually manage the property. And oh my gosh. Seriously, like, where on earth did she get this idea that she could take random pictures, probably just stolen from the internet, with mold and pass them off as her unit? I've said it before on videos like this, if you're going to lie, keep your story straight. Don't submit photos with carpet when you don't live in a carpeted unit. My goodness. Not a lawyer, but I have a good one. TLDR at the bottom. My ex did not want to pay child support, so he did not show up to the courthouse. Don't think just because you don't go to court you can avoid the reason you're supposed to be there, and got nailed with the maximum amount of money. Anyway, after 3 years of not paying and only coming to see our son 6 times, he owes something like $10,000 or more USD. He finally decided to go back to get it lowered and asked if I would forgive the past due. I told him yes I would if he would start coming to see our son at least one day each week for a few hours. A few months go by, the court date rolls around, and he has failed to visit more than twice. And I have a mound of evidence, Facebook posts, text, and MySpace, of him not only having a job, but buying drugs, expensive clothes, and car accessories. He also lived with his mom, so no bills. Even his food was paid for by mommy. He makes his case about how he doesn't have a job and just can't afford child support, blah blah blah. Then it's my turn, and he thinks I am there just to say, hey judge, forget about that $10,000 and don't make him owe so much each month. He was not prepared for the folder I handed the judge that had all his information from the past few months printed and highlighted. He screamed at me, at the judge, at the room, "That's personal! That has nothing to do with this! I was given that stuff!" It took everything in me not to laugh. The judge waits for him to be quiet and calmly says, if I could keep it at what it is, I would. Actually, if I could raise it, I would. Sadly, even with all this evidence, I will have to set it at about half. My ex was not happy about that, but there was nothing he could do. After, I told my ex that the offer still stands if he ever wants to be a dad. I will forgive the past child support. As of now, our son is 11 and has only seen his dad once a year since. If you are wondering, he has not paid any child support other than $100 at each court appearance since he found out as long as the judge sees some money going in, they will not arrest him. TLDR, my ex posted about having money to do drugs and party on social media while claiming not to have money for child support. Man, that ex just reminds me of those idiots that were out in the stores like licking Bluebell ice cream or like chugging Listerine and then putting it back on the shelves and posting about it on social media. The whole thing about crime is to not advertise that you've committed it. Why do people do this? I will never understand. That was r/AskReddit, and if you want more funny or uplifting AskReddit content, then go ahead and click the playlist link on the left, or if you want to see what YouTube thinks is best for you, hit the button on the right. Now you guys stay safe, stay healthy. I will see you all tomorrow with more wholesome Reddit stories. Until then, stay beautiful, people.